Angle shooting refers to exploiting technicalities, unclear position, or ambiguous line of sight situations to gain an advantage that wasn't clearly established during play. This term comes from poker when players use a trick in the game that's not explicitly prohibited in the rules, but which is used to gain an unfair advantage. In 40K, it's when people aren't specifically breaking the rules, but their intention is to twist the rules to their advantage. For example, someone who has a model's base touching an objective control area might reserve the right later to say that they weren't on the objective if it suited them, or they were if it suited them, depending on how the game unfolded and which secondaries were drawn. They weren't specifically cheating, but they were using an ambiguous situation to keep their options open and give them an advantage. Another classic example of angle shooting is not revealing rules to your opponent that, had they known or remembered, would reasonably change what they would have done. This is obfuscation for advantage. For example, if I see my opponent setting up a charge against Lilith and her witches, and I haven't told them that witches have fight first, I'm obscuring this rule for an advantage. This is angle shooting. It's unreasonable for my opponent to know every rule in my codex. It's up to me to tell my opponent about my rules and avoid gotcha moments. Using declarative playing is a good way to avoid angle shooting. Another good way is to watch for ambiguous situations and ask your opponent what their intent is when they're placing or moving their models. Ask, is it your intent to have that marine on the objective or not? Or ask them during the game, are there any rules I should be aware of, like fights first? Do you have any rules that allow you to deep strike within 9? Or any rules that grant -1 damage? Angle shooting almost always leads to gotcha or feels badsy moments, which is something we really want to avoid. As always, your first goal should be to make sure your opponent has a good time whether they win or lose.